Hi, I'm Miles Porter. Tonight we're going to look at just one thing, a moment that lasts maybe 2 minutes, the moment when a train crosses the Mississippi River after dark. That's all. Just that one moment. I've been thinking about it because I rode the Texas Eagle last month. The southbound train that leaves Chicago in the afternoon and arrives in San Antonio the next evening, somewhere around 7 o'clock. Just as the light was going, we crossed the Mississippi at St. Louis. And I wanted to tell you about it. The Mississippi is not the longest river in North America. That's actually the Missouri by about 100 miles. But the Mississippi is the one we talk about. It's the one that divides east from west. Radio stations east of the Mississippi have call letters that start with W. Stations to the west start with K. That's how central this river is to how we think about the country. So when you cross it, you're crossing something, even if you don't quite know what. The approach is gradual. For about 20 minutes before St. Louis, the land begins to flatten. The fields get wider. The towns get smaller. You can feel the train moving through Illinois farmland, past Alton, and then you start to see the city lights ahead. St. Louis appears on the horizon like a low glow. The Gateway Arch is there, of course. 630 feet of stainless steel catching the last light of the day. It was built in the 1960s to commemorate westward expansion. Thomas Jefferson and the Louisiana Purchase and all of that. Standing on the west bank of the river, facing east, a doorway to what used to be the frontier. You can see it from the train. A silver curve against the dimming sky. And then you feel the train slow. This is important. The train always slows before a bridge. You might not notice at first, but the rhythm changes. The wheels make a different sound. Something in the way the cars move tells you that you're no longer on solid ground. You're suspended. The Mississippi at St. Louis is about half a mile wide. That's wide enough that the crossing takes a while. Wide enough that you can look out the window and see only water below you and sky around you, and lights on both shores. At night, those lights are everything. On the Illinois side behind you now, there are the small riverside towns, some factories, the red and white blinking of radio towers. On the Missouri side ahead, the city rises. Office buildings and parking garages. The arch glowing under its spotlights. The green and red navigation lights on the river below. And between them, darkness. The river at night is not like the river during the day. During the day, you can see it moving. You can see the brown water churning south toward Memphis and Baton Rouge and New Orleans. You can see the barges and the tugboats and the way the current pulls at everything. At night, you just see darkness, a wide darkness moving beneath you. The train uses one of two bridges at St. Louis, the MacArthur Bridge south of downtown, or the Merchants Bridge north of downtown. It depends on the day and on the Terminal Railroad Association. They decide which way you go. Both bridges are old. Both are steel and iron. Both make a particular sound when the train moves across them. A hollow, rattling sound that's different from the sound of rails on solid earth. You can feel it in your seat. A slight vibration, a slight looseness in the way the car moves. It's not unsafe, it's just different, and if you're paying attention, you might notice that the other passengers get a little quiet. People look up from their phones. They turn toward the windows. Something about crossing a big river makes people want to watch. I watched. The lower Mississippi, below where the Ohio joins it at Cairo, Illinois, is sometimes 1.5 miles wide. Even at St. Louis, above that confluence, it's substantial. You look down and you can't see the other side clearly, just lights, just the suggestion of land. And then slowly, the lights get bigger. The buildings of downtown St. Louis rise ahead of you. The train moves off the bridge and onto Missouri soil. The wheels find their regular rhythm again. The hollow sound becomes solid. And that's it. 2 minutes maybe, that's how long it takes to cross. But in those 2 minutes, you've passed from one side of the country to the other. You've moved through air and over water. You've been nowhere briefly between things. I think that's why people like it, the nowhere feeling. There's no cell service in the middle of the bridge. No landmarks outside the window, just movement and sound, and the knowledge that you're suspended above something very old and very large. The Mississippi drains about 40% of the continental United States, 31 states, from Montana to New York. All that water from all those places flowing past beneath you in the dark. If you ride the Empire Builder from Chicago to Seattle, you cross the Mississippi twice. Once at Hastings, Minnesota, about 20 minutes after St. Paul, and again at La Crosse, Wisconsin, where the river is so wide the train passes over 3 separate trestles. The California Zephyr crosses at Burlington, Iowa, on a lift bridge that was first built in 1868, the first all-metal bridge to span the Mississippi. They rebuilt it in 2012, but it's still in the same spot. These are old crossings. The railroads have been making them for over 150 years. I like knowing that. knowing that people have been sitting in train cars looking out at the same river for that long. Different trains, different bridges, but the same water moving south. The same moment of suspension. I should tell you something about the sound, because the sound is maybe the most important part. When the train is on regular track, you hear a steady rhythm, click-clack, click-clack, the wheels passing over the joints in the rails. It's regular and predictable, and after a while you stop hearing it. On a bridge, the sound changes. It becomes more open, more resonant, like the noise has room to spread out beneath you instead of being absorbed by the ground. Some people find this unsettling. I find it peaceful. It reminds me that I'm somewhere unusual, that for just a moment, I'm not in Illinois and I'm not in Missouri. I'm over the river, in the air, moving through darkness from one place to another, and then it stops. The sound goes back to normal. The lights outside get closer and more defined. You see streets and cars and buildings with windows, and the crossing is over. The Texas Eagle stops in St. Louis for about 20 minutes. Some people get off, some people get on. The train adds a few cars, refuels, and then continues south into Missouri, through the Ozarks, through Arkansas, down into Texas. But for those 2 minutes on the bridge, none of that matters. You're not going anywhere. You're just there, above the water, between. I think about the river sometimes before I fall asleep. The width of it, the depth of it. 200 feet deep at New Orleans. Just a few feet deep where it starts at Lake Itasca in Minnesota. All that water from all those places passing under the bridge while the train passes over. If you ever take the Texas Eagle southbound, you'll cross the Mississippi around 7 in the evening. Earlier in summer, later in winter, but usually right around dusk or just after. Find a window on the left side of the train, the east side. That way you can look back at the Illinois shore as you cross. You can see the lights recede. You can watch the darkness open up beneath you. And then you can look ahead to Missouri, to the Arch, to the rest of the country. It only lasts 2 minutes, but I think you'll remember it. Sleep well. If this helped you settle, maybe we'll ride together again. Good night.